Okay, guys.
Everyone's at least out of their car within yelling distance.
We don't want to get too close.
All right, so this area here is known as Horton Grove. Now, at the time, again with 900 enslaved people over 47 square miles, they didn't have all of the enslaved people live in one place and make some of them walk 40 miles to go to work, make some of them walk 2 miles to go to work. There are little clusters, just like Horton Grove, that were spread out all throughout the plantation, where about 80 to 100
I'll call you back.
enslaved people would live.
Alright.
Live by where you work. So Horton Grove here is where most of the field hands work. People would be out in the cornfields that used to surround this area. So since we have a lot of kids here today, before I start talking about the enslaved people here, I want to make sure y'all know what a slave is. Can y'all kids tell me what a slave is?
Yeah, a person that worked that didn't want to, didn't get paid real for real. That's what we are still.
What's your definition?
A definition of a slave is a person who works unwillingly.
Right.
A person who works unwillingly. That's one definition.
Absolutely.
Now, could a slave choose what work they did?
No.
No. Could a slave decide whether to work one day or not? To take
No.
a day off? Could a slave leave their home, go travel somewhere else? No. Did slaves get to learn how to read or write? Did they go to school? No. Were they free to earn money? Were they free to choose what clothes to wear? Were they free to decide who they were going to marry? No. Okay, I just want to make sure we get that down for the kids. Basically, their entire lives were controlled by the people who owned them. A slave could be bought or sold like you would sell a car today. Now, here...
No, we all know it ain't fair.
No. Now, here at Horton Grove, we have the only original remaining standing slave quarters in the state. These are the original quarters that were built in 1850. Now, these probably look different from what you're used to hearing, or what you might imagine when you hear the word slave quarters, where these enslaved people were living. If you've toured other plantations, they probably look a little bit different from what you've seen before. And that's part of the reason that these are still standing today. These are kind of unusual slave quarters. The original quarters that were built here when the land was purchased in 1810 were a lot closer to what you think of when you hear the phrase slave quarter. There were big one-room cabins that were straight on the ground. So you had a dirt floor. You'd have 1, 2, 3 families living in one big open room, a fireplace, maybe a window, maybe it has a shutter or not, and a roof of either thatch or literally just boards laid across the top. Now, during the summer, you know, it's so hot just standing out here. It was even hot with all of us in that nice air-conditioned house that we just left. Can you imagine what a one-room house with a door, maybe one window, would feel like with all these, 12, 20 people living in it at once? You're straight on the ground. Maybe there's a puddle of water. Maybe there are bugs. You're going to have mosquitoes in there. It's not going to be a healthy place to live. During the winter, it's going to be cold. If it snows, if it's windy, if it rains, there isn't really any protection from that. The water could seep through the door, through the windows, it could seep through the ground. You're going to get puddled, you're going to be cold and wet. People are going to get sick. Now, kind of like you see at schools or workplaces today, one person gets sick, the whole class is sick the next week. That's what it was like here at Horton Grove as well. The entire 120 or so people living here would often come down with illnesses all at once. Now, Paul Cameron, as I mentioned back at the house, was a good businessman. You don't get to have 900 enslaved people and 30,000 acres if you are careless